When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind Around with John Pollock and waiting. The A-team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind Around for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind Around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wade Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first Rewind to Raw of 2023. I'm John Pollock, along with Waiting, where the numbers just keep going higher and higher as time continues into another year.
That is correct. Yes,
That's how years work, Way.
That is how the numbers work. Yeah, we're in the year 2023. For those of you guys checking in, are you gonna get? Will it take time for you to get used to it?
I'm used to it.
Yeah, I think I am too.
Yep. I had to explain to my daughter because she thought that by it being a new year, she asked, "Is it my birthday?" I was like, "No, it's not your birthday. That's not how it works." But she assumed that like she gets something out of this. I'm like, "No, it's just it's the world's birthday."
I guess so. Yeah, I guess that is the right way to put it. Okay, well, do you have a nice New Year's?
I did. I did. We did a fake countdown in the backyard with our kids and their friends. So that was a lot of fun.
Ooh, why the backyard? Curious.
It was just easier to do it outside. That was all. So we all got together. It was fun.
Okay, nice.
What did you do?
I did the real countdown at home. Just me and my wife and some fried chicken, and it was a good time.
Yes. Actually, I have a very funny story. I'll tell you later, though. I'm not going to tell it here.
Oh, you're going to tease the audience like this?
No, it's nothing anyone else will appreciate, but you will, that I just remembered now. But that's nice. You had chicken. It was very nice.
Yeah. Even
did you stay up till midnight?
Oh, yeah. We did the real countdown. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I have learned that as the years go on, I'm the only one that stays up till midnight. Everyone goes. Actually, several people have been sick in this household. Not me. So I stayed up and I finally watched The Godfather Part 3, which I had never seen.
Interesting. Okay.
The recut version that came out a few years ago for the 30th anniversary. Not as bad as everybody like slams the third one. I mean, it's not 1 and 2. I'll certainly give you that, but it was fine. It was all right.
I mean, it's probably mainly that, the fact that it's following two of the best movies of all time. But what was exactly cut out of the recut? I'm curious.
I can't tell you. I think the beginning is a bit different, but I've never seen like the third one. I don't have the comparison point. I only saw the recut version was on. It was on like HBO up here, so I watched that.
So Home Alone 3 is next for you, I guess.
I doubt that. No, we'll see. We'll see how I feel next year if we get around to that. Well. For some people, The Godfather would have been on their best of list. For some, The Godfather 3 was on their worst of list. Sometimes you put those lists together and you get the best and worst of 2022, which is the show that we premiered on Sunday night. Nearly 3 hours of myself, Davey, Braden, and Way going through all of our picks in about 20 different categories, chronicling the good, the bad, and the ugly of the past year so that we can properly march into a new year. Best wrestler, best match, best tag team, worst promotion, worst character, worst pay-per-view. All of it is covered. And then our annual game of likely or unlikely as we go through our predictions that we made last year and then make a whole new list, including our listeners' scenarios that were submitted. All of that and more on the best and worst of show. Near unanimous praise for this show.
I really enjoyed it. Of course, we did it with our friends at Poison Rana, Braden and Davey. You can go catch that on video. All of us in the same room together, a rare occasion where that happens these days.
Yes, we all got together. It was a good time to see Braden and Davey. So, go check out the show. As well, WrestleNomics doing a really great, extensive breakdown of the past year, going through many different categories of some very interesting stats to round out the year, including television viewership for the various programs, numbers of matches. Davey Richards having a surprisingly busy year in 2022 as they uncovered on this show. So check out Chris, Brandon, and Jesse on the year-end edition of WrestleNomics. I'm sure we'll be hearing from all three of them throughout the year in 2023. Also coming up this week, we have got my goodness, a very busy one. Tuesday night, Poison Rana has it locked down for the first NXT of the year. And then Wednesday, somehow Wei Ting and I are going to pull off a mammoth schedule. Have you decided what your viewing strategy will be for Wrestle Kingdom? That starts early Wednesday morning at 1:20 a.m. Eastern time. What is your plan of attack? Because I am trying to figure out what I'm going to do because I got a curveball here that I have to... my wife is going out Tuesday night, so I have to watch my kids on Tuesday night. So there will be no early sleeping for me. So, boy.
I have not figured it out. I mean, chances are I might start at 1:30 because I'm likely to be up then anyway. Maybe at some point when I lose steam, I'll cut it off and continue in the afternoon. But at some point, I will finish it before probably early afternoon on Wednesday so I can record a show with you for release before Dynamite.
Are we recording in the afternoon?
Aren't we?
You had to. I had suggested that, and you had stated, let's just record right after the show ends.
Okay.
So that's fine. Too. No. I'm fine with either one. Believe me.
Whatever.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Wednesday, a show is coming to you at some point in the post-wrestling cafe feed. So look out for that. Mm-hmm. And then we will recover by watching Dynamite that night with their big show from Seattle. Thursday, I'm going to do a show with WH after New Year Dash. And that will be a free show for everyone because I know everybody, the whole world needs to hear WH's thoughts on all of the events that have gone down this past week from Noah and All Japan. All Japan show is going on as we speak. We'll talk about that later. And we will chronicle the angles and matches that go down at the Mystery Vortex edition of New Year Dash on Thursday. Friday night, we get 4 hours of wrestling back to back with SmackDown, Rampage, and Battle of the Belt. So we will go live at midnight for all members of the cafe. And then the week winds down with WrestleNomics Radio on Sunday. This will be a week. It'll be a battle of attrition for us, Way. That is going to be who will be the last man standing by Sunday night. That is the question at Post Wrestling.
The holidays are over.
Ooh.
We're back to work.
Back to work, for sure. Lots of great stuff coming up this week. Karen Peterson will have reports on Wrestle Kingdom as well. She already has ones up on Stardom, Noah. You can check out all of that. Andrew Thompson will be doing coverage of Wrestle Kingdom as well. So we are all equipped here at Post Wrestling. So we will move on. Were you following the very scary situation on the Monday Night Football game tonight? Were you following along with this? This is a pretty scary situation with Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin. Did you see the hit?
Mm-mm.
I did not either. I did not want to see it either. But he got tackled and I guess got up and then collapsed and required CPR. He was down on the field for about 15 minutes before they could finally transport him off of the field. And it was just this 90 minutes, give or take, of wait and see of what was going to happen with this game. I mean, this is as the season is coming to a close and very unlike the NFL to cancel a game. I guess the last update that came out was that his vitals are back to normal, but all of this was playing out on ESPN. So you had the broadcasters in this situation where they kind of had to ride things out and keep going. The players are distraught. It just seemed like it was this question of whether they were going to have these teams continue to play afterward, but sounded like an extremely scary situation and hopefully a positive ending to all of this, but certainly a very, very serious injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, watching any sort of sport for a long time, injuries are certainly going to be a part of it. And on live TV in these sort of very scary situations, it's how do any of us react? Certainly, how do the broadcasters react? I'm happy to see that the game was stopped. And, our thoughts are with the Damar Hamlin and his family.
Next story. This is a very serious story involving Dana White that broke tonight on TMZ of footage of him and his wife at a nightclub in Cabo San Lucas on New Year's Eve. And the video was captured and appeared on TMZ's site where White is seen with his wife, Anne, and he grabs her by the wrist and says something in her ear. And then she proceeds to slap Dana, and Dana responds slapping her in the face before the people that they are around in this VIP area intervene. And so obviously Dana White was aware this was coming because we have an interview up on TMZ. And I will say I don't know if I've ever seen Dana White in a state like this as he is being interviewed, and he explains that there was heavy amounts of alcohol involved, but does state that is no excuse to ever put your hands on a woman. He does point out, and this is something that he had said many times ago, that you never put your hands on a woman. So he is acknowledging that, and stated that, you know, him and his wife, just think about this way. How many times have you ever heard from his wife in the history that you recall? Like, she is a pretty private figure, other than you are aware that Dana White has a wife and 3 children. But she put out a statement, and essentially, you know, what Dana said, this has never happened before. And she backed that up, said that they have apologized to one another. Their concern is their children right now. This was very much damage control. You know, the fact that this was on video, I think that was, you know, it just illustrated it. And I think it was that much more significant. The fallout of this could be very, very severe. I mean, there are people in these positions that would not survive something like this. And I mean, I'm not trying to be crass here, but it's the obvious is that here is a video of a man slapping his wife that is launching a slap fight league in a couple of weeks' time. That, you know, this is going to be how Disney reacts to this, how Endeavor reacts, which you would think would be somewhat based upon how Disney is feeling about this. Like, there was a time that Dana White could probably skirt through, but the days, like, he is a major
Disney. What? Sorry, Disney.
Just with the ESPN deal. I mean, that's
okay. Gotcha.
Like, this is where it goes up right to the top of, like, Disney, that here is one of your major, you know, partners that is the front facing figure of your company. That's a major figure with on ESPN Plus, on ESPN proper. And obviously this could have an enormous ripple effect, and this could be a very, very major story. It will tell you if Dana White is able to skirt by this. Like, the last, I would say, major story he had was the Loretta Hunt issue, where he dropped some horrible, horrible language, but that was a different era of UFC that is nowhere near under the radar, like, or I should say was operating more under the radar than it is today, and with many, many business dealings that you have.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, Warner Media Discovery and TNT, you know, TBS, you know, people that are currently partnering.
I think that could be very much in doubt, at the very least, of being delayed at somewhat. Like, Dana would have been your person promoting all of this. I don't know how you can go through with that in 2 weeks' time.
People get away with a whole lot when you're, you know, in a powerful position with a lot of money in the media. So, I mean, I you know, does everything kind of proceed as planned? It wouldn't shock me if it did, John. But this is about one of the worst things that somebody could be involved with, as they're about to launch a slap fighting league on national TV. It's horrible. It's terrible that it happened. And I haven't seen the apology, but I don't know if there's any sort of apology that would make this that much better. I understand.
It was like, this interview, if you watch it, like, this is damage control Dana. If you want to watch this interview, like, he is not and I mean, they ask him at the end, Dana, do you even remember it? And he just, like, no, I don't even remember it. I mean, it's like, he's not using alcohol as an excuse, but that is, you know, in all of the stories, it was, like, alcohol was, you know, a major factor here. But, you know, the video looks bad. It looks really bad. And, you know, this could certainly go into, you know, Dana White's position in the UFC. Like, you don't know how major companies are going to react to something like this. And if Disney is scared off by this, it could have a major effect, or this is something where Dana can somehow skirt by this. But
I certainly don't doubt that, like, you know, if you're Endeavor, if you're the UFC, you're probably going to be questioning how public you make Dana, you know, for the foreseeable future. I don't think I don't really have that much of a clear indication of, like, his power within the company at this point, but I imagine it's still quite considerable. So, but as far as like him being a public facing person for the time being, I'm sure they're seriously considering it. Do incidents like this go as far as, I guess, Disney? Because certainly ESPN is no like in sports, you have controversial figures involved in awful news all the time. Has Disney intervened?
I would say if you had like a major sports owner on video slapping his wife, that's pretty bad. Like what I thought of reading this story was Chris Albrecht, who is a name people might not be familiar with, but he used to be the head of HBO. And in 2007, I mean, he was involved. He was arrested, but he was involved in a similar situation. He lost his job at HBO. And there actually is a UFC tie in there because they were in talks, UFC and HBO at the time, and he was a supporter of the UFC. And once he left, that was, that was a pretty significant story in media back in 2007. But, powerful figures, and that was not caught on video. Like that, and I don't mean to like minimize it, but we see the example from like Ray Rice. It's like those stories were out there, but once the video was there, it's just a more damning element to the story. There's less, if you are a fan of somebody or you want to excuse behavior, and it's just one person's word or the reporting, it's something's being left out. The video is there. It's clear to see, and it's a couple.
When is the power slap fight?
2 weeks. It's supposed to start on the 11th. Yeah. Like this is, I don't know how you can, and you would imagine Dana would have been doing a ton of media leading up to that premiere. And if you're Warner Brothers, I don't want this guy out there promoting what is such a direct correlation to this video that already would have its detractors in terms of the slap fight league. That I think once people watch this thing, like it's going to draw a lot of criticism. I just cannot imagine. I can't imagine going ahead with this debut. The timing. I mean, there's never a good time for something like this, but especially like we're here to talk about the sporting and the business implications, right, of these stories. And certainly, when it comes to something like this, I can't see if you're Warner Media Discovery wanting to be involved so publicly in business with this person operating this style of organization that is promoted around slapping people in the face. It's comical to even suggest. So I have to imagine, like, I also imagine Dana's all over the show. He's like you're essentially your spokesperson for the entire league. Yeah. So it's probably too late to re-edit these shows to remove him out of it, right? So how do you proceed with this launch? And he would be, the most central figure to that show. I mean, it would be like that was, Dana White being attached to that, I think is a large reason they have a TV deal to begin with. I don't think this is happening if this is just, another production. And let's fold it back into professional wrestling. On the we did a likely unlikely about whether or not Dana White would appear on AEW programming, and I certainly think the answer to that will be no right now. How much do you think even AEW might be comfortable promoting it? Obviously, they'll do what the network tells them to do, but to what extent? Yeah, I mean, it just could have many implications. The central one being, the response from Endeavor and Disney. I think that is going to be, it will be very, like this broke tonight. And they had the interview ready to go on TMZ with Dana, who stated like he's still on his vacation. How big of a story this is tomorrow. Again, at the same time, like we have seen sometimes where, even in the early days of the Vince McMahon story, like, yes, it got focused, but people moved on. Like even in the grand scheme of things, like at this end of the year, when you're watching all these different sports and news shows recapping the year, it's like Vince McMahon was not a big story to the mainstream world. It's like in our world, very, very big story, the biggest story of the year. But it's some of these figures like a Vince McMahon and Dana White, like Vince McMahon, like skirted by a lot of stuff, not something like this, but other, controversies that didn't stick to him like it would have other mainstream figures. We're going to see what the effect is on Dana White. AJ Styles suffered a broken ankle last week on the house show in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they did address this on Raw, that he put out a tweet stating that he broke his ankle but is not facing surgery. So it's just going to be rehab and waiting for it to recover. So obviously the worst time of the year to get injured. The fact he's not going for surgery, I guess they believe that he can make a full recovery without it. And, I would imagine a broken ankle for sure. Rumble is out of the question. The larger one would be WrestleMania if they feel that's a reasonable timetable to come back from a break.
Certainly, yeah. Terrible, from what he says, it'll be the longest layoff he's ever had in his career, which is actually quite surprising and tells you probably the quality of worker that he is to manage to, avoid a significant injury for this amount of time. I'm most curious about what this means for the OC, Gallows and Anderson and Mia Yim. Because
it didn't mean much for Michin on tonight's show.
Yeah, Michin, maybe I'm not that concerned about, but Gallows and Anderson, I think, are very much hired as a supplemental act for AJ Styles. What happens to the two of them? And yeah, does AJ find himself like involved in any sort of way, maybe in a non-wrestling role?
Another story that came out today was Fan Time put out a congratulatory message for Mandy Rose earning $1 million in December. Not a bad month.
1 month.
Yeah, in the month of December. So, her.
How much does Fan Time get? I guess is what.
I'm sure they get a healthy cut of this. I don't know what maybe some credit card fees as well that come with this. And
yes,
at least she's getting this probably in U.S. dollars. Doesn't have to convert the currency.
Yes, that is right.
Go through any third parties
Patreon
there.
problems.
But this is a real interesting one because in professional wrestling, one of the very guarded secrets is what people make. And it always astounds me that talent are so protective of that number being out when for a greater whole, it is most beneficial to these promoters that your amount of money is not out there. So you can't go into negotiations and compare yourself with anybody unless you're talking privately with other guys and they'll share it with you. But for this, I mean, here is a giant billboard for what is out there for some of these women, for a woman who was on NXT programming, and it will give you the comparable that if you were somebody that was facing that third party ban last year, and maybe this is an exceptional amount of money that Mandy Rose is making. She got a ton of attention after being released over this issue. But even if you're in the ballpark of this, half of this, you have to be looking at this. And if you're somebody like a CJ Perry, Lana, who's doing very well on Brand Army, and she's been off television for over a year off WWE television, like this is an alternative path, and it's going to give some of these performers I think a look at what is out there if I don't want to continue at this level, or if I can't continue to do third party stuff if I'm at an NXT level.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I would say the entire story has probably been that even prior, with all the like with Saraya, and with Thea Trinidad. I am still probably willing to bet though, like most talents. I get the sense Mandy Rose's Fan Time is a bit more risque than what most talents are going to be willing to offer, and how much of that has contributed to her doing so well on it. I'm not sure, but I don't know how viable of a real alternative to a wrestling career it is for most. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like Mandy Rose is certainly like putting herself out there significantly on her page, but I look at Paige Van Zant, like it's risque content, but not at this level, and it looks to me like that is head and shoulders above what anything else that she is making. Yeah. And it's someone that has realized I don't have to be in the UFC to have this following. It's just, that was one of the talking points. Can Mandy Rose sustain this without having a WWE platform? I would argue she probably can. I think that there is more of an ability to do this. But it's interesting. It's like there's always waves with these things. Like there may be a time when this subsides. Like she is at a high point right now in terms of her recognition factor.
And if she's making this much, she might not have to do this for very long.
Let's talk about the Noah card. How much, if at all, did you get to see of the Muto Nakamura match?
I saw the Muto Nakamura match.
So Yeah, a lot to talk about. First of all, they drew 9,500 people to Nippon Budokan, which is a tremendous figure for Pro Wrestling Noah in 2023, drawn off of Muto and Nakamura. And Shinsuke Nakamura came out with the best entrance of 2023. I think we can officially state that he is the front runner and felt like a megastar walking out. I mean, this guy, whatever charisma you think he lost in WWE, or could he turn it on? My God, I didn't think of WWE once in relation to Shinsuke Nakamura during this entrance, this match, this just charisma that exuded out of this man, and that white, whatever you would call it, that he was wearing to the ring with Lee England. I mean, what a pairing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spectacular. I think just the feeling of seeing Nakamura again in Japan, in a big stage, for a big significant main event match, that alone felt very special.
So the match went 18 minutes and 20 seconds. And, this was not the match of the show, but in terms of this crowd, like, they saw Nakamura and Muta as just the biggest stars, and it felt like a big, important match and a special match. On top of that, I thought that they worked like a very good main event. I didn't think that this dragged. I thought that, like, the crowd, and this was a crowd that could not cheer, but they were just, you could, like, just a gasp as Nakamura is coming out. You could see, like, they, some people looked at, should this headline over the title match? I thought they made the right call, that this was the main event, and I think that this was in the proper position here. But we saw the poison mist from Keiji Muto, the red mist to Nakamura, and the ending came when Nakamura sucked out the mist from Muta's mouth and then sprayed green mist into Muta's face before Kinshasa to win in 1820. Afterwards, Nakamura calling Muta his idol, and then Muta called Nakamura several things that we will get to in a second, which was its own controversy. I thought that would be the major controversy that we would be discussing tonight. But in terms of the on-screen presentation, your thoughts?
Well, I should mention, like, I've seen very minimal of Muta, throughout these recent years, and so I don't know if my expectations were maybe tempered to what yours might be, John, having followed much closer, to his current state. So I think if I had seen what he was physically limited to at this point, I might have looked at this match as like a bit of a success story. And you know what? Judging by the crowd reaction toward it all, the emotion coming out of it from the crowd, the announcers, Nakamura himself, I would classify all of that as quite successful. And I thought, using the mist and sort of like these sort of gimmicky things to create something compelling in terms of story, I thought was overall successful. But the man is still incredibly limited in what he's able to do, but he was still able to pull off like nice looking flash elbows, pretty decent looking shining wizards.
He's got the great Muta, like, formula presentation down, and he knows, like, his timing is, like, his instincts are still there to maximize the limited things that he can do. And he had a superstar to work off of in Nakamura that the audience saw as a major star. It does make you wonder, what is the plan for the Tokyo Dome because I thought this went pretty damn great for a great Muta performance at this stage where the man has just turned 60.
Maybe that's where you throw the moonsault in, but I'm not that hopeful that happens given his mobility at this point. But successful, I would say, in terms of grandeur and spectacle and overall story.
So afterwards, Muta goes to the back, and this is where he is speaking to the reporters, and then dropped some very unfortunate homophobic language to describe Shinsuke Nakamura and sucking the mist out of his face, which it is worth knowing is a spot that Will Ospreay did with Bushi a number of years ago in New Japan. So this was not an original match finish, but nonetheless, it was this language was very disappointing to hear. And then I was very surprised that it made its way onto Noah's social channels, which has thankfully been taken down. But this, to me, it was just a really awful look And something that I would think would be, there are going to be the apologists out there, but I just thought this was pretty awful language to hear in 2023. And I am not one that just gives the, it's a issue with a different generation not understanding this. I just thought it was pretty tone deaf to be using, and it just kind of gave a damper on what was, to me, a pretty great ending to this show with this match. And then you hear these comments.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, the mood is so celebratory. You see these commentators, they're tearing up and crying at, one of the last sort of big moments in this man's very, very illustrious career. And the first thing you see as we cut to the back is a very short promo in English here from Keiji Muto. Possibly speaking in character or not in character, there's no excuse for it, but it's what I got. So it might, like, you might be a bit lost, I guess, if you haven't seen the match nor the interview. But as John mentioned, the last spot of the match was Shinsuke Nakamura essentially like kissing Muto to suck the mist out of him so that he could spit the mist out. Mm-hmm. And what you got in the post-match interview from Muto was essentially what I deemed to be some form of like very insecure defense of his masculinity by calling, Shinsuke Nakamura queer and a derogatory, slur for a homosexual person. So it was the people that might defend it are saying, okay, well, he's a man in his 60s, 50s, in 60s. Japan, 60s in Japan, which is a culture that might, in some cases be sort of lagging behind in terms of, I think, how progressive they are with LGBTQ plus rights. But God, like, you booked Shinsuke Nakamura for a reason, and that's to cater to an international audience. You're on an international stage. You're even cutting a promo in English to try to cater to an international audience. How unaware must you be in the state of the world at this point? So I hope this is a learning experience for him to find out, like, why this man still thinks it's okay to use language like this. Does it indicate anything deeper within him, with regards to his opinions on the subject? And it's, hopefully it's a wake-up call to any sort of like promotion out there that is granting live mics to people in their I don't know, different generations.
I think honestly, like, I will give them like the benefit of the doubt of an apology coming. I think that's at very least. I'm not one of these.
I don't know if you're going to get that, John.
Well, I think that really reflects poorly on not just Muto, but the promotion itself, that you condone this. I'm not saying that you have to get rid of this guy, but I feel like this went out on all your channels. I would be pissed if I was WWE and I see this.
It's still on the stream, like on the main show. It's at the end of the main show
it's still on that feed. Oh, well, that's really bad. I saw like the tweet, the video of the like minute had been taken down off the Twitter. But yeah, if it's still there up on the feed, I think that reflects really poorly on Noah.
So, certainly this collaboration with WWE opened very sort of obvious discussions or speculation about whether or not Muta would, number one, maybe even make it to the Rumble. But if not the Rumble, then certainly maybe a shoe-in for the international, slot of the WWE Hall of Fame. I can't imagine that happening at all at this point. This would just not fly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I wasn't like aggressively following this story. When I first saw those comments, I had it sent to me like first thing on Sunday morning. So it's like I'm watching these comments and I'm thinking that like, wow, this is really, really bad. And it was definitely discussed online, but I thought it honestly would generate a larger backlash than it did.
Well, how many people do you think watched the match? Like, how many people signed up to Wrestle Universe, or at least was it aware enough?
I think far less saw the backstage portion than did the match. And the fact is, like, this is, if this had happened in a North American promotion with your equivalent of a Muto here, I think this would be like a major story of this clip going around. I don't know if this is gonna just kind of fall under the radar for people, but it's, there's
the internet brings everything up, John, and if let's say it's April or March, like they're looking, they were possibly thinking about this, for the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's still relatively fresh on people's minds at that point, that when we're talking about that at this point, WWE going out of their way to possibly honor somebody who's not in their system for, bad, at the risk of bad PR, and PR is the thing that they probably care the most about. So why would they do it?
I would say that way, but at the same time, it's like, man, Glenn Jacobs has said some horrific things, and that has not affected them. Like this kind of thing, like part of me is like, I would not be happy if I was WWE, but at the same time, if they were gung ho on going ahead with these plans, I don't know if this kind of thing stops them either, because they don't mind being in business with, uncomfortable figures, or, and in the grand scheme of things, this is not at the level of some of the other things they've attached themselves to. So
you could be right.
Anyway, that was an unfortunate part coming out of this. Just some other stories from the show. Kaito Kiyomiya and Kento was second from the top. A phenomenal match for the GHC Heavyweight Championship. Kiyomiya, like the story here is that Kento does not respect Kiyomiya as this godlike figure that is required to be the GHC Heavyweight Champion. So you had Kiyomiya just put on this phenomenal performance. Some of the highlights was a Tope-con hero over the corner to the floor, and then a Shining Wizard that wins it for Kiyomiya. That's one of the moves he adopted after beating Muto last year. They went 19 and a half minutes, but just some terrific stuff here from both individuals. So that would be a match that I would certainly go out of your way to see. Kenta and Naomichi Marufuji, they lost to Takeshi Sugiura and Satoshi Kojima. A fine match here. It was, it was not the Kenta and Marufuji of 15 to 20 years ago, but it was still, to the crowd, a cool deal to see the two reunited here. It went 1842 with Kojima pinning Marufuji with the cozy lariat, and Kenta announced to everyone representing the Bullet Club. So they made sure that this is not your Noah Kenta. This is Kenta of the Bullet Club coming. Junior Heavyweight Championship match saw Amakusa, who is the former How, taking on Junta Miyawaki, and Amakusa retained the Junior Heavyweight Championship. But the story of this to me is that Miyawaki, he is a 25-year-old who just came back from excursion in Mexico. I am very high on this guy. I think that this dude has all of the tools and could have a very big year. He was just so crisp with so much of his timing. He's got a great look. Amakusa, even though he doesn't look it, is 37 years old, which in my world now is old. I'm sorry, Wei. But nonetheless, they had a really, really great junior heavyweight match. But Miyawaki, I was very impressed with in terms of his showing in this match. Jack Morris defeated Timothy Thatcher, and then after the match, a masked man came out revealing himself to be Jake Lee. And this was a bit of a surprise because I think a lot were expecting that Jake Lee, after leaving All Japan, would maybe pop up in New Japan, but he's here, and he aligned with Jack Morris, not the pitcher, but rather the professional wrestler. And Jake Lee is working this coming weekend for Noah, so he's getting right into the thick of it. And then I won't go through all of the undercard, but the one I wanted to note was the 8-man tag that featured the Mysterious X showing up to team with Kazuyuki Fujita, Nosawa Rongai, and Kendo Kashin, and it was 61-year-old Hiroshi Hase to take on Masakatsu Funaki, Manabu Soya, Katsuhiko Nakajima, and Hajime Ohara. And Hase, all I want to see is Hase and Ricky Steamboat team up in 2023. Dude, Hase came out. This guy looks phenomenal. He like races down the apron, the ramp. This was like a mystery partner that lived up to the hype. He's running the ropes like he's half his age, and he looked great in this match. I mean, This dude was just... I just thought he looked great. Like the over 60 division in pro wrestling, it's not a deep division, but you could have a division, Hase, Sting, Ricky Steamboat. I mean, you know what? 1 to 2 matches a year, make them a trios tournament participant later this year in AEW. I mean, dude, Hase was great in this match. And he won with his move, the Northern Lights, pinning O'Hara. And, you had a Funaki and Nakajima in there just unloading kicks on Hase. Like, dude, this dude did not just show up for a hot tag, okay? He worked like 10 times more than John Cena on Friday. And I just thought he was a great addition on this show and a really cool surprise that they had. But overall, this was like a really entertaining show. It was Noah's biggest card in years. And I think that they are going to continue this momentum for the Yokohama Arena show and certainly for the Tokyo Dome. I don't think today's or Sunday's comments are going to overshadow Muto's appeal. I think to some fans it will, but I do think it is something that, especially in Japan, will blow over. But that was really, it was just like, this was a really great, fun show. And then you saw that, and it was just kind of like the air out of the balloon when you heard that, and it just kind of left you with a sour note coming out of the card. But that was a very enjoyable card that Noah put together. Did you get to see any of your annual MMA viewing tradition of the New Year's Eve card from RIZIN and Bellator?
I did not, unfortunately. No.
Well, I won't go through it. I did do a quick recap in the update, but the final scene of the night, Bellator ran the table. They won all 5 of the main card fights, and then Nobuhiko Takada gets into the ring to lead. Like, you had the officials from RIZIN and Bellator there and some of the fighters, and Takada does the Ichi Nisan Da. So I did not think that one of the last visuals of the year would have been Scott Coker participating in the Antonio Inoki chant in the Saitama Super Arena, but we had that. And on a personal level, it was kind of cool because back when we did Fight Network Radio, our Mondays, it would be Morrow would have Paul Lazenby on. And here on New Year's Eve, we had Morrow calling the Bellator card with John McCarthy. And then Paul Lazenby was on the English commentary for the Noah show as well. So,
very cool. Taking over.
A lot of Canadian content as well on these New Year's Eve / New Year's Day cards. And before we wrap up the news here, as I mentioned, Kento Miyahara and Takuya Nomura are probably having their match as we speak at Korakuen Hall. So maybe we will get a result before the end of the show. But for those not following All Japan, these two, they won the tag league last month, and that led to the two winning the All Japan tag titles on Monday at Korakuen Hall. Early Monday in Japan, late Sunday for us here in North America. And they beat Suwama and Kono to win the tag titles. And then the very next match, Takuya Nomura won the annual New Year's Battle Royal that All Japan does. So he worked back-to-back matches, winning both, and also worked a Big Japan show on Monday. So he was super busy, and probably his luck ends here against Miyahara, but there's certainly an argument to just, why not? Just go all the way with this guy. He is a great, great talent, and these two have had 2 singles matches in the past with Miyahara winning both of them, but this will probably be a stellar match that will get lost in the shuffle this week, but it is probably in the ring right now. So that's the latest on the All Japan front. And the final thing before we go to Raw is just the lineups that we have for the next 2 nights. So NXT is back with their first live show in a couple of weeks where Elba Fire and Isla Dawn will have an Extreme Resolution match.
Okay. Well, that's what you hope a match would do, right?
An Extreme Resolution match. So does the loser have to give in to the other's resolution? Like one of them says, I'm going to give up chocolate for the new year, but now you're going to have to.
Depends how extreme it is, I guess.
Okay. That doesn't sound too extreme.
Be like, sure. Yeah.
In a non-resolution match, Carmelo Hayes takes on Apollo Crews, Charlie Dempsey against Hank Walker, Axiom taking on Trick Williams, and Braun Breaker will be on the Grayson Waller effect. And Wednesday, Dynamite has their debut card in Seattle with Samoa Joe and Darby Allin for the TNT title, Chris Jericho against Ricky Starks, The Acclaimed versus rapping Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Do you think we get a rap to the ring by Jarrett?
I can only hope, John.
Bryan Danielson against Tony Nese, Swerve Strickland against AR Fox. The rematch years in the making from the Hell of War match at Ultima Lucha 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Jade Cargill and Red Velvet against Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue. Update on Hangman Page, promo from Jon Moxley, and an appearance by MJF. They've announced like 50 things for Dynamite on Wednesday, which is a 2-hour show. They will fit all of this in some form or fashion.
And the new look, of course.
The new look, of course. Do you think the new look gets a introduction or an entrance or a countdown?
I think the new look itself is an introduction.
I guess so, yeah. So maybe Justin Roberts. Ladies and gentlemen, the new look. And then the lights can come on in the arena.
Sure.
The Climate Pledge Arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. On to Raw we go. The first Raw of the year in Nashville, Tennessee, where they got a big late surge. There were over 9,200 tickets out according to WrestleTix, so a very, very strong number. It's amazing that Raw gets this huge crowd, and a typical AEW of late has half this number, and they sound 3 times as loud as these crowds on Raw.
Post pandemic era, I don't know what sort of manipulation goes on with the audio, but maybe it could be the dedication of the fan. AEW really has kind of built for itself this sort of reputation for being a real party atmosphere, whereas I guess WWE caters more to people casually saying, hey, do you want to go to wrestling tonight? Could be that.
Yeah, sure, we'll go, but we're not making any noise. So there we have it. So we start off the show with, the only way we could start Raw in 2023. The Bloodline. They jump the barricade and they start attacking everybody. They're taking over Raw. So Kevin Owens comes out. Dude, this guy's left eye looked awful.
Yeah.
The remnants of SmackDown. So, yeah, there were a couple people busted on Friday with Zayn's bloody nose, Owens' eye, Gunther. There were some casualties coming out of that SmackDown. So Zayn calls it a hostile takeover of Raw tonight, and people are going to get hurt, and it's all because of Owens. So Owens says, I'm going to come punch you in the face. Adam Pearce says, no way. He brings out security, and they're going to escort the Bloodline out, and everyone boos. They're like, no, don't get rid of the Bloodline. So Bloodline destroys security. Then Owens jumps in, so it's 4-on-1. Pearce calls for backup, and boy, did he have backup here. Luke Gallows, who didn't go with Carl to the Tokyo Dome, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, Ali, Elias, and the Street Profits all run down, and Pearce says that all 4 Bloodline members will be in a match tonight. So he had a big 180 from escorting them out of the building to you're taking up the second hour.
I guess so. Yeah, sure.
That was the opening segment. Saxton is backstage with Bianca, and she says that the relationship with Alexa Bliss beyond repair. So Pearce is with the locker room, and he makes Elias and Sikoa in a Music City street fight. This was true leadership, that Adam Pearce was able to book not just a Music City street fight, but all of this spare music equipment on such short notice. Who has a piano just lying around at the Bridgestone Arena?
Yeah, maybe Elias has some sort of hookup with the guitar center nearby. Yeah.
And then the Usos and Zayn will take on Owens and the Street Profits. And then, after all this time, Hardy appeared on Raw.
Finally.
He's here. The musician Hardy is here, and not from Per Oxygen. This is the man behind the song Sold Out, which is the theme for the Royal Rumble. And Hardy will be performing this live at the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. You familiar with Hardy?
I'm not. Are you, John?
No. When this image came up, I thought Kid Rock was playing at the Royal Rumble.
No.
But it's not. No. The Mockingbird. So Bianca Belair takes on Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship. There was a very bizarre sequence at the beginning of this. So Belair is getting in this boxing stance. Bliss throws a punch that doesn't come anywhere close, but Belair braces like it had hit her. So then Belair turns, and Bliss goes for a drop kick that also missed by a mile. And Belair just goes to the floor. And that was the start of this. Not the greatest start.
They were replicating a sequence from Scary Movie 3, punch for punch, John. This came out online afterwards, and it was a scene involving the protagonist of Scary Movie 3 with the girl from The Ring. And in this case, it was Alexa Bliss playing the girl from The Ring. Have you seen Scary Movie 3 or any of the scary movies?
Are you being serious?
I am. Yeah.
Whose
it was
idea
there.
Who comes up with that?
I mean, they must be fans of the film. And I'm guessing they were so dedicated to completing sort of like the comedy, replication that like some of these punches did not look very good at all.
So it was they purposely missed punches.
I don't know if they purposely missed punches, I like
this might be the dumbest idea I've ever heard for a match idea.
Well, I mean, it's their version, I guess, of when CM Punk and Bryan Danielson tried to replicate Sonnen versus Silva. It's similar to that. So
yes, Scary Movie 3 and an MMA fight. Very similar. Well, we got repeated scoop slams by Belair, and then a handspring moonsault by Belair for a 2 count. Was this out of Lethal Weapon? What part was this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Bliss then slips out of the corner. She yanks Belair by the braid, and Bliss is in control when she spots a man with a Bray Wyatt mask on, and she is fixated on this man and distracted. So then she climbs up the turnbuckle. She sees another man with a mask, and she climbs down. The screen flickers. The crowd gets excited by the flickering, and then Bliss shakes her head, and she attacks the referee, destroys Belair. We never get a bell. The match is just done, and it leads to Belair being thrown into the post, thrown into the stairs, and then a DDT onto the stairs. And this crowd in Bianca Belair's home state starts chanting one more time. And also some blood here. I think it was from Bianca's nose, or Alexa's nose, I should say.
I think the blood was from Bianca, like when she got, Irish whipped into the steps. It looked like her mouth.
I couldn't tell if it was there was definitely blood from Alexa's nose, and I didn't know if she got it onto Bianca. Well, maybe they both bled. This went on for 17 minutes, and then a stretcher is brought out for Belair. Montez Ford is down, so they tried to do a serious angle. I did not think this worked for 17 minutes. I hated the ending. I just thought the beginning was they were just off. What you told me, I disliked this match more after you described that to me.
Well, I mean, they could have done the scene fine, but the action still had to look convincing, and the execution was just not good in a wrestling context. I have no issue. Like it could have been awesome, actually. Them trying to do something from a movie fight scene if it looked convincing and if it looked like it belonged in the body of this wrestling match. But it just didn't look good, unfortunately. The match I found pretty lacking in terms of fluidity, even beyond that spot. I also found the crowd's energy for it pretty low, especially considering this, was a homecoming of sorts for Bianca Belair. They did not seem to care about her.
It was early in the show. I mean, and this was consistent throughout the show. Like I thought, we got some like lengthier matches on the show, and I would say not until like the final minutes of Rollins and Theory did you really feel the audience played a role in getting into the action. So
or Hardy, they got into Hardy.
They did get into Hardy. Maybe they peaked early with Hardy. Maybe. Once you tease that he's here, how can you pay attention to what's happening in the ring?
All the sort of Bray Wyatt kind of hocus pocus stuff is overall like it's been pretty corny. Like even going back to Friday with Uncle Howdy, it's something that is necessary for the rest of this Alexa Bliss storyline. I will say I think one of the saving graces about the segment was the unintentional blood, both on Alexa coming out of her nose and also for Bianca coming off of her chin. If there's a time to get busted open hard away, it would be for to elevate something that is supposed to be a significantly kind of scary and traumatic series of events like you saw here.
Kathy Kelly interviewed Austin Theory. This backstage segment was probably a minute. Between the two of them, they said Seth freaking Rollins 4 times.
Well, that's his full name.
Every single reference to him. He was not just, and Seth freaking Rollins, and then just from there referring to him as Seth or Rollins. Every single time it was Seth freaking Rollins. Because tonight I'm going to face Seth freaking Rollins. And if Seth freaking Rollins thinks he's going to take my U.S. title, well, I have news for you, Seth freaking Rollins. It's unbelievable.
You get used to it, I'm sure.
I don't get used to it because I specifically noted it here. It was too much. Just too much. Elias and Solo Sikoa, the Music City Street Fight. So we got pianos, guitars, drum kit, keyboards, the whole works. Sikoa, did you notice? I don't know if Sikoa's been working with this for some time, but it was the first time I noticed it. They had a knee brace on.
Didn't notice.
No, on his left knee, it was like the knee brace right there. So I don't know if he's like working through stuff, but it was very noticeable. Elias misses a guitar shot and breaks it over the post. So then Sikoa is sent into the drum kit and gets hit with a cymbal. Elias gets up from a Samoan drop and breaks a keyboard over Sikoa's back. Sikoa misses him in the corner, and then Elias, I hope this was some kind of gimmick tambourine, because, dude, he was waffling Sikoa over the head with this tambourine over and over again. But this audience, they got into it when Elias...
Where did you go to get a worked tambourine? I'm curious.
I don't know. Maybe you make a paper mache tambourine. Maybe you consult Eve for a tambourine.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I lost that one.
It was a song.
Oh.
Sikoa then recovers from the tambourine shots, and Hardy appears and hands Elias a guitar. And Elias gets stopped by a super kick, so Hardy then enters the ring, breaks the guitar over Sikoa's back. The man no-sells it. Hardy gets the hell out of there. And then Sikoa turns around into a flying knee, and Elias comes off the top into the Samoan spike. But Solo ain't done yet. He goes to the edge of the apron, spinning Solo onto the piano that breaks. And Sikoa pins him in 14-24 and stares down Hardy. If he had killed Hardy right after this would have been a flawless ending. This was a great ending to this match. Probably these two were certainly in pain after this one, but they found a way to have a 14.5-minute match with Elias. And audience, this was like the most lively they were throughout a match by relying on the weapons and a man taking a uranagi through a piano at the end.
Crazy. Really. Yeah. These like holiday themed WWE plunder matches are usually all pretty similar. You put a bunch of like relevant objects around the ring, and it's just guys like Irish whipping each other into them. They're pretty much just like any hardcore match, but with like some sort of different skin depending on the holiday season. But thank goodness, like this was a pretty good hardcore match. And I think like Elias is, he's sort of like your go-to guy when you're trying to do these sort of like miracle, like, I don't know, like these music things certainly, but like even others, it feels like he's done plenty of these. And I think he's gained a bit of a reputation for like, not being afraid to fight hard and get hurt. And Solo Sikoa is certainly of that same type. So you had two guys not afraid to really just kind of like go all out here, and it ended up being quite entertaining. The musician stuff was some decent bit of celebrity integration. I am assuming they're going to pay that off between Solo and Hardy at the Rumble.
I would think so. I think you have to do something there with the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
The Usos and Sami Zayn against Kevin Owens and the Street Profits. So Montez Ford is dejected on the apron because he's thinking about Bianca from earlier and being DDT'd on those same steps. So this led to Owens being beat on throughout the match. Finally, he gets to the corner and he has to slap Ford to wake him up. And Ford comes alive. He does this awesome comeback, attacking Zayn, standing moonsault, and then from the heavens, but Jay makes the save. Dawkins nails Jay with a pounce, and then Ford hits the Tope Con Hero onto Zayn and Jimmy. When Solo Sikoa returns and hits the Samoan spike on Dawkins, Owens attacks Sikoa and Jay super kicks Owens, and Ford nails Jimmy on the apron, but he leaves himself open for the haluva kick, allowing Zayn to pin Ford in 11 minutes and 49 seconds. The Bloodline continue to beat on Owens, and Sikoa gets a chair. Zayn takes it away from Sikoa. He doesn't want him to use the chair on Owens, and then Sheamus and Drew McIntyre jump the barricade and clear the ring of the Bloodline with their tag title match coming up on Friday.
I thought it was a pretty fun match. I enjoyed the extra bit of storytelling with Ford being distracted by Bianca, leading to him being distracted for the finish. So
maybe he saw a man in a mask on the opposite the hard cam.
Could be
just staring at him the whole match. Could have been.
Yeah, definitely. That could have been it.
Nice match, and continuing the Zayn's reluctance to see them go and destroy Kevin Owens. So they mentioned the broken ankle that AJ Styles has suffered. Chad Gable takes on Dexter Lumis, the Silent Man that they're calling him. So this was not one of Gable's more big standout television matches. So Lumis hit a bulldog, did a kip up to his feet and into a leg drop, and then Gable with a released German. Otis misses a discus lariat, so rams his arm into the post, and Lumis counters a Magistral Cradle, rolling up Gable in 410. Audience wasn't into this one bit.
They were pretty dead for this one, and you know, without the Miz, without Johnny Gargano, without Indy, like I don't really see that much in Dexter Lumis as a singles character.
Where was all of Lumis's money? Got all this
Gave
money.
it all away, didn't
Does he have to be doing this?
Well, I mean, he loves this, doesn't he?
He got all of the Miz's, all of his money.
Right. Well, he's in it for more than money, obviously.
Man.
He loves the sport. I thought the match was very dull. You know, you have a guy who kind of has to work like a 90s, like cartoony Undertaker type of slow moving character. And in 2023, when I think the barometer for creepy is something like, you know, Bray Wyatt and in ring, even like you can't just be 90s Undertaker. I just did not like this at all. And you were up against Chad Gable here. So I don't really like Dexter Lumis is still one of the more perplexing returns under Paul Levesque to me.
Yeah. I mean, this was not Chad Gable is kind of a marginal character, but usually has these entertaining television matches. This was not one of them.
Chat room is informing us that Dexter lost the money back to the Miz in the ladder match.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That ladder match, it was Lumis losing all the money. So now he's got to work. He's got to work.
The story makes perfect sense, John.
There is a video on Cody Rhodes and his journey to recovery. So they go over his return at WrestleMania, the photos with Dusty, and being the extension of the American Dream. And this will be continued, this video series, which I think ends with his announcement of his return.
Would make sense, yeah. So they're not going the surprise route. They're, you know, doing the, I'm assuming Cody Rhodes will be at the Royal Rumble type of thing.
I think that's the smart way to go. This does not need to be a surprise return.
Agreed. I mean, Kat was already kind of out of the bag, you know, last week. But
I can't believe New Japan is not trying to make more of, like, the idea of Sasha Banks showing up on Wednesday and not wanting, like, why would you not want this to be, like...
I can only assume, John, that like her appearance is not going to be that significant on the show. Like I imagine it'll be showing up at the end of the Kyrie match, just simply being there.
That's a big deal. She's showing up. It's her first appearance.
Right. But like
there would be people that will tune into this show for that.
I don't doubt that, but it could be that like they don't even have her, you know, like they might not even have her cutting a promo. It just might be her like being seen. And you know, like the way the New Japan subscription works is you pay a fee for the entire month. So maybe their thinking is we get the buzz off of January 4th and then hook the people to actually pay for a subscription for the actual match.
I would want to be driving as many people as possible for your biggest show of the year on Wednesday. I feel overall, I think that there are many promoters out there that are so obsessed with surprises, and sometimes it's detrimental. I'm not saying that's the case here, but I think like there is this obsession with surprising fans instead of realizing how important anticipation is and then paying it off.
It's certainly not a very good, well-kept surprise. I think the more important place to announce her would be AEW. So we'll see on Wednesday, you know, if it is.
They've indicated like they're going to, you know, give you some clue as to who the partner will be on Wednesday. So that would be the time to do it. Damage Control come out and they insult Nashville. This is where the group was created at SummerSlam. And Bayley brags about beating Becky, who comes out and says that Bayley thinks she reinvented the wheel, but in fact, it's a hamster wheel she's been on, doing the same thing week after week. And you feel the most comfortable in someone else's shadow, and that Sky and Kai aren't your lackeys because they're doing all the heavy lifting, and one of them is bound to turn on you. So she proposes a match. Bayley turns it down, but says Becky can take on Sky and Kai if she can find a partner. And Becky accepts a handicap match. So we get a 2-on-1 match with Dakota Kai and Io Sky against Becky Lynch without the tag titles on the line.
They've tried that, haven't they? You know, titles on the line in a handicap situation. Probably didn't work out too well.
Well, Graves made fun of some flat earthers during this match. And Kai and Sky are double teaming when 5 minutes into the match, Michin decided, you know what? I'm not doing anything else. I can go out and help her. She needed 5 minutes to decide on this. Maybe they couldn't cue up her music.
Well, I mean, maybe she thought, oh, Becky's got this. And once gave her a chance. And once
she does not have this.
Yeah.
She needs Michin. Well, turned out to it's turned out to be a great plan by Michin, who ends up getting pinned in this whole thing. So they double team superplex Kai. Sky makes a save. Michin then spikes Kai onto the floor, and Becky is going after Bayley on the floor when Michin hits Eat Defeat. But after hitting Eat Defeat, she's on her back and gets hit by Over the Moonsault, and Sky pins Michin in 13:46. And Becky has this look on her face that just screams, I had this. Thanks, Michin. Never again. I'd be pissed. You come and join, and we get the loser's purse out of this. Thanks a lot. What this is your babyface creation of Michin here.
I suppose so. Yeah. At the start of this, when it was just a handicap match, I mean, I was certainly wondering if they were going to see this through and how they were going to book themselves out of it, because it would have been a bad situation for the tag champs. But I mean, coming out of it, you give Damage Control another win over Becky. Becky, superstar that she is, has to sell some sort of, stress from losing twice now to Damage Control. So builds a bit of strength behind them. So what is the match at the end of all this? Becky Bayley again? Or are we talking
I think
Rumble?
they're definitely going to have Becky get her win back over Bayley after losing on TV a few weeks ago, for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So there you have it. So it looks like Kento Miyahara retained the Triple Crown on today's show, and it looks like Yuji Nagata challenged him after, that'll be a great match that they will have. There's your All Japan update. Jimmy Allen's in the crowd.
Sorry.
Did a song for tribute for the troops.
Oh.
Kathy Kelly interviewed Seth Rollins, and he said that the Bloodline's trying to take over his show and Theory is trying to take his spot, but this is my show, and did put importance on the United States title. Saxton, our roving reporter, tracks down Alexa Bliss, and his opening question, you seem to have completely lost control out there. She says, no. Au contraire, mon frère. I gained control over Bianca Belair's headspace, and that title belongs to me. Cool. Great plan.
She's pretty confident that she's going to get a rematch, obviously.
Why? Why is she so confident about this?
Because everybody gets rematches here.
If I was Bianca, I'd be like, no. You hit me with a vase, and then you just smashed my face in the steps. Get lost. You had your chance. You had 17 minutes out there to beat me, and you did not do it. I'm moving on.
Guess it's not up to Bianca, is it? Who else?
You came up with the scary movie spot, okay? I'm moving on from you.
That's it.
All right. And then we go to a white backdrop that is brought to life by the image of one Dominic Mysterio. Sadness. It's not a bad thing to feel, but it's that cold absence of feeling. That's what prison was like. You think I'm playing a game? You think this is a game to me? I served hard time, and I survived. Prison changes a man, and you guys might think it's over for me, but no. I'm just getting started. And mommy, I'll see you soon. This man is on pace to be the best character of 2023.
Best on the mic 2023, I think.
Look at the eye drop he's added.
Oh, eye drop. Lovely.
Oh,
there you go.
Goodness. This guy, he had the toothpick in there.
That's hilarious.
Could you imagine, Way, if I showed you this photo in 2020? Be like, this is where we're going. So stick around for this Dominic character.
Not at all. No. Can you imagine a year from now, what this man's going to look like? He'll be looking like the tattooed guy in the Mogul Affiliates.
He's going to be in Mogul Affiliates. You're right.
That's it. This was amazing, dude. This was Dominic coming out here.
The gold chain, the mustache.
Street cred Dominic with about 16 hours of prison time to his name. This character just keeps getting better and better and better, And again, like this, we know it's like somewhere in the vicinity of like 16 to 20 hours because that video was posted on Christmas Eve, like 8:30 p.m. And he tweeted that he got out thanks to mommy at 2:30 in the afternoon the next day. But it's changed this man. I love it.
This is fantastic. I think that, I want to see this guy take over the Judgment Day. I think that's the long-term plan here.
Oh, he should take over the entire company. I mean, listen, we do speak in jest a lot when we're speaking about Dominic, but come
This
on,
guy's
this
doing
is
great in this
one of
role.
the most entertaining stories and characters that we've had in quite some time. He has entertained me, and he's completely self-aware of what type of character and what his appeal is. Everything about this is working right now.
Take the bloodline stuff out because I still look at that as more of a SmackDown program as much as they're trying to inject it here. Like I am not into too much of the programs on Raw. Like the Judgment Day is something, and look at where that group was 6 months ago. They really turned that around.
Much of that thanks to Dominic.
Yeah,
taking them
and
to another level. Yeah,
you know, and all things are set up for a great, you know, program with him and Ray going into Mania. Like they cooled it off by having them on the separate shows, but it's in everyone's, you know, front of mind that is the destination, that they're keeping, you know, that thread between them, even though they're on separate shows. The holidays have united them for multiple angles.
that is correct. I want to talk again about this holiday video that at Grandpa's place. I didn't realize Grandma even got into the action. She was the one that was calling the cops.
Yeah,
in the background.
Yeah. It was a really well thought out spot, right down to Dominic being the one to shove Ray first. It was,
It was excellent.
Then they played a video package on Bronson Reed. I was glad that they had some representation of Bronson Reed on this show because, you know, it's been 2 weeks, and I would say if they, you know, there was no Miz on this show, so to not have him, it would have just felt like he was already forgotten immediately. So this was simple. It was just NXT footage and multiple tsunamis, but it made you remember that this is a new character on the show that reminds you, because, you know, it's last week was off and time moves very quickly.
It was something. You know, I would have preferred to have seen a match maybe instead of the Dexter Lumis match, but yeah, you know, there's plenty of time in the year.
And the main event, Austin Theory and Seth Rollins for the United States Championship. The first half of this match was so dull.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
I thought it was. I'm not saying it was bad. It was just, to me, nothing. Like the crowd sang along at bits, so I can't say they were dead. But then it picked up. To me, the turning point was the Rollins knee spot where he goes to lift up Theory, and it's his knee buckles, and it was done so well because it's not like your obvious knee injury. It's, number one, it calls back to Rollins' injury from 2015, and the way he did it, he really conveyed it as like it was a blown spot as opposed to an injury. And the rest of the match,
the ref was excellent, like, you know, being right there to check on him like he would if it was a legit injury. Also, the fact that they went right back to the spot, lifting him up in a powerbomb.
I thought it was really well done, and made the whole last bit very strong. So he's got the knee, but yeah, as Wei mentioned, he then lifts him up, and then he does the spot where he scales to the top. And 9 times out of 10, and Seth has been a offender of this many times, is, you know, you're selling a knee injury or something, and then you do something spectacular. This was the one time it worked because your idea was, okay, the knee's fine. But you had seen the spot, and he would go back to it. He put too much. He compromised the knee too much by believing that it was fine. So he does the superplex, but then instead of the follow-up Falcon Arrow, it's turned into a Fisherman Buster by Theory. They get into near falls, and this is where they've got the crowd. He goes for the stomp, but his knee gives out again, and Theory grabs the belt. He's going to leave. Rollins brings him back, super kick, and hopping on one leg, goes to the top and hits a one-legged frog splash. Theory kicks out, crowd goes nuts, and then the stomp gets caught, and Rollins is run into the referee. Rollins lands on his injured leg, but he manages a pedigree. The other ref runs in, counts 2, and then Theory avoids the stomp, and behind the referee's back, low blow, chop blocks the knee, and hits A-Town down, pinning Rollins in 23 minutes and 37 seconds. I still feel Theory has a long way to go, but man, Seth Rollins is the guy that he should be working every single live event with over and over and over again, because this guy is just outstanding, Seth Rollins. Yeah. And I thought this was some of his best stuff has come with Austin Theory, that he's very much leading the way to me. Like, I don't think Theory has turned that corner yet, but this, especially the last half of this match, I thought was very, very strong.
I thought it was a fantastic TV match. You know, yes, like any Seth Rollins match is going to be principally a showcase for Seth Rollins, but I don't think you can get this result unless you're pretty good yourself. And I think Theory has proven to be pretty good. When he's in there with, somebody who's not of the caliber of Seth Rollins, I mean, yes, it is a bit more of a different story. But still, to be able to achieve this sort of thing and to be able to kind of tell the story that he did along with Seth Rollins with that excellently worked knee injury, I thought you should give both of these men kudos. Really exciting closing sequences. Even the ref bumps I thought were very well designed and very effective. Everything I felt was pretty quality here.
So that ended the first Raw of 2023. No major angles to go off the show with or anything like that. But I would say Theory and Rollins was an entertaining match. The what was it? The Nashville
Music fight.
The Music City street fight. That was better than I expected it was going to be for a 14.5-minute match with Hardy's involvement as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm hoping we get a payoff for that at the Rumble.
So are you ready for another year of 3-hour Raws after tonight? Did it give you
I'm
hope?
ready for another lifetime. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be doing this forever. Why not?
Yeah. And worth noting that they have 2 more weeks, and it's not just the Rumble that they have to promote, but that 30th anniversary of Raw is in 3 weeks as well that they're going to have to hype up and be dedicating time to. That will be a very, very big edition of Raw in Philadelphia. Okay.
We got one super chat here from LCT who sends $10 earlier on in the show. He says, wrestling is scripted. Why is it so hard to get the belt off of the bloodline? What a sad state of affairs it is watching Raw being headlined by the U.S. title again.
I don't think that it's so hard to get the belts off of them, but that's the story. They control all of the power. And if you're talking specific about Roman Reigns, I think like what has been the detriment for them of
nothing?
Like like people might not like the fact there's no world title on Raw, but it has not affected the show's viewership figures. It has not affected the ability to sell 9,200 tickets for a Raw on a Monday night in Nashville.
It's made Roman Reigns feel more special. That's the side effect. It's made the championships feel more valuable, and it's made the US and IC titles feel more valuable. I think they've proven this year that you can build a TV show without your main championships, and there's probably a limit to that, like if the bloodline was not as hot as it was without a Sami Zayn, without somebody like a Roman Reigns, would this have been as effective? Can they replicate something like this for the future? I don't know, but for the past year, it's worked perfectly fine. So why would they get the belt off the bloodline? It's going great right now.
It's the A story. So you want it to have a big payoff at the end, and hopefully it really benefits people when you do execute those title changes. Let's do these pieces of feedback, and then we're going to do a quick preview of Wrestle Kingdom since we won't be talking to you until Wednesday's post-show. Saeed from Vancouver writes that Bliss and Bianca had very little chemistry. Match felt sloppy, and the ending felt flat for me. Solo has the potential to have a massive year. He somehow keeps getting better and better. Got taken out of Raw as the injury to Damar Hamlin occurred. Who tackled a Bengals player, stood up. Yeah, we went over that unfortunate story from the game tonight. Main event, the two have great chemistry and always put on a fun match. Rollins' selling of the knee was something else. And good luck to both of you on the coverage of Wrestle Kingdom. Thank you, Saeed.
Thank you, Saeed. Let's go up next to Chris from Yonkers, who says, Happy New Year, John and Wei. One of my New Year's resolutions was to be more active in the post community, shooting for that postmarks episode in 2024. So leaving feedback. Highlights of the night for me were the Bloodline versus Profits and KO and the U.S. title match and Dominic Mysterio. Montez Ford has all the makings of a main eventer, but at the same time, I can see Angelo Dawkins doing the same thing if they position him the right way. He has presence about him, and he has continued to get better in the ring in a way that makes him stand out during tag matches, even with Tez doing everything that makes him great. Austin Theory has been putting in the work to prove that he wasn't just a Vinnie Mac pet project, and that Seth Rollins' one-legged frog splash was money. All in all, not a bad episode. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it just always feels like they could condense the show to 2 hours. And I guess Miriam is just going by Michin again. They said that about 100 times during the match. That is correct. It seems like she's going by Michin. One more time. With only 3 weeks left till the Rumble, do you guys have any predictions of what the card could shape up to be outside of the 2 Rumble matches? Bliss and Bianca, for one.
Reigns and Owens.
Bailey and Becky, perhaps.
Yep. I mean, those seem to be programs that they're building towards. And beyond that, I mean, it's not like you need a whole lot of matches in there when you have two Rumble matches. Like you don't, and Reigns and Owens, if that's in there, like that pretty much is the card right there that you're going to get, 60 to 90 minutes per Rumble when you factor in all the entrances and videos and everything together. So,
and also Gunther Strowman maybe, or will that? Will
they're doing that on TV in
right?
2 weeks. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Wrestle Kingdom 17 going down on Wednesday, 1:20 a.m. Eastern Time, early Wednesday morning, featuring the pre-show that has Ryohei Oiwa taking on Oleg Boltin in an exhibition match. This will be our first look at Oleg Boltin, who is an accomplished amateur wrestler. My favorite match of the year, the New Japan Rambo, where the final four will meet the next day at New Year Dash to determine the KOPW championship holder to start the year. Unfortunately, with this year being one show, I think this is the match where you'll find Takagi, Ishii, Taichi. I mean, there's going to be a lot of probably great talent in this match that are, that's just the reality of one show, is that you're not going to get focused singles matches or even like multi-person matches for some of your big names, especially like a Takagi.
It's a damn shame, when you're talking about somebody like a Shingo Takagi not really finding themselves a match on the show. On the same token,
you do have the Yokohama Arena show as well, so there is
right.
You can't spread out some of the guys onto.
And that's I'm assuming where we'll get the House of Darkness, House of Torture, where they'll get their Wrestle Kingdom big spot.
Yeah, that's the crime of it all. Evil not having something more prominent.
That's it. So it's a Rambo. I think New Japan does these like pretty poorly, compared to like the Royal Rumble, for instance, in terms of just number one, how seriously they take it. Number two, the execution of it. I mean, maybe this year with more talent, they'll treat it differently. But ultimately, this is for the K1 Pro Wrestling Championship, isn't it?
Maybe a handful of legends here and there. That's usually the surprises you get. And then the other pre-show match is Yuji Nagata, who's just on, he's been doing a lot of All Japan over the last few months. Satoshi Kojima, who's been all over Noah, and Togi Makabe taking on Tatsumi Fujinami, Minoru Suzuki, and Tiger Mask. And it's worth noting that Minoru Suzuki looks to have just formed a group with Naruki Doi and Hokuto Omori on All Japan. So Minoru Suzuki is going to be doing more dates upcoming in All Japan as well, which kind of probably was your rationale for splitting up Suzuki-gun, and we will see what Minoru Suzuki's New Japan commitments are for the next few months.
I just watched the goodbye to Suzuki-gun, and like he seems to still like state very much a case of wanting to go for the IWGP Championship.
Yeah, so he does put that out there. I can see him doing a bit of All Japan and then coming back at a certain point, and that was a big focus of that, and it was a really great like send off that they did. It wasn't like anyone turning on each other. It was just, hey, we've reached it. We're all going to go our separate ways. It was one of the most
feel good faction breakups I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a nice moment to end New Japan's year. So anyway, yeah, we'll get Tatsumi Fujinami. We'll see if he'll be part of the 60 plus club that the faction that we are trying to build in 2023.
Yeah, like without necessarily like knowing so much of the history of Antonio Inoki as it relates to a lot of these guys. I mean, some of the significance is lost on me, but every single person seems to have some attachment. And you can actually read this great preview on NJPW 1972, actually. So yeah, I'm sure the commentary in Chris Charlton will really shine here.
On to the main card. TJP and Francesco Akira defending the junior heavyweight tag titles against Leo Rush and Yo. This should be an outstanding opener. Both teams had really strong tag league or super junior tag leagues last year, and Francesco Akira has been a great addition in New Japan's junior heavyweight tag division. So, and Leo Rush, like him and Yo, they just are a great combination. They have great chemistry together, and I really like this role for Leo Rush. I think he has found like a permanent home now in New Japan, and I think that this will be, if you haven't followed the Super Junior Tag League, I think you'll be very impressed with this match that hopefully gets some time. We have 12 matches listed, so it's there will be some matches that get a bit shortchanged, but hopefully they get 12-13 minutes, I would hope.
Yeah, I have not seen any of Leo Rush in New Japan Pro Wrestling and his team with Yo, and I've heard really great things. So I'm really treating this show for me as a bit of a jumping on point for a lot of the New Japan that I've missed. And this is one of the things I'm actually most looking forward to, seeing Leo Rush and Yo together.
Kairi defends the IWGP Women's Championship against Tom Nakano. And in some ways, I feel bad because I think everyone is going to be, if Mercedes is not out there like watching ringside at the beginning, I think everybody is going to be anticipating what's happening in the post-match. I think everyone is expecting Kairi to retain and Mercedes to issue the challenge. So they're in a big spot here on the show. And yeah, but also I think everyone's focus is on what the match is coming out of this one.
It's not like New Japan to have anybody interfere. I should take that statement back, but at least when it comes to like, you know, the House of Torture, of course, but when it comes to like new debuts, I don't know if I would see somebody, you know, Mercedes interrupting mid-match. I'm assuming they will give these two the platform to actually showcase themselves and have a terrific matchup, and then at the end you probably get something like that.
That's what I think happens. Yeah.
I also wonder like how much anticipation exists within the Japanese audience. You know, like Sasha Banks is a big deal internationally to us, of course. I'm assuming she's a big star. Is she as big of a star there as she is here to us?
I think it's going to be a big reaction for her. And we should note that there is cheering allowed at this, the certain guidelines of cheering. So you will get to hear them. FTR against Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi for the IWGP tag titles. I think this continues the losing streak, and FTR dropped their last set of tag titles. They lost to Dralistico and Dragon Lee last week, and Dax Harwood, dude, this guy is feeling the effects of that double dog collar match. Like, he is getting around rough. And man, seeing that tailbone of his and having to sit on a flight to Japan would not be too envious of,
I hope he got upgraded to first class.
Oh, so anyway, I think Goto and Yoshihashi win the tag titles here. Not a foregone conclusion, but that's the story they're kind of telling with FTR. So I think this is where they get the last set of tag titles off of them.
For sure. To me, like the result of the match is almost secondary. I mean, I'm just looking to see if I mean, of course, like look at the talent in this ring. I'm not, you know, Yoshihashi and Goto. I'm not the most excited by them challenging FTR for the championships, but I mean, they're incredible wrestlers, and this is a fresh combination that I personally haven't seen before. So I'm hoping even Dax, not at 100%, is able to deliver the quality we've expected of FTR.
One of the big standouts on this show is Zack Sabre Jr. against Ren Narita to determine the first New Japan World Television Championship. Finally, Way, you get your wish that New Japan has added a television title. I feel like the semifinals took place like a year ago. It is so long since they did these semifinals. It was like 2 months ago. But this, I would like to see Ren Narita win this. You could certainly argue that Zack winning establishes it with somebody that has been perceived right near the top level, and it really gets the title off to a strong start. But the counter argument is that Ren Narita has just come back. Let's just go with this guy. He is one of our future stars, and you know, beating Zack Sabre Jr. I think that they certainly have something in this division, because I really enjoyed the tournament and the specifics that they added that differentiate this from the other divisions. But this is a great final that they have.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, the 15-minute time limit is interesting, because it would ideally, you know, make them work a whole lot faster. And for like a submission based, you know, match, I wonder how that changes things.
It adds a lot of drama having these time limits, like whether it's, you know, the Julia Shuri match that came down to the final seconds. I just think it adds an element of, like, you know, those buzzer beaters that you can script, and it's just it's something that differentiates.
Even if you aren't going the full 15 minutes, you know, the psychology of the match changes, and everybody's going to go for those ending, you know, moves, ending submissions that much earlier. So yeah, it's a Ren Narita singles Wrestle Kingdom match, not in an opener, you know, like, so it's a huge opportunity for him, and really for Zack Sabre Jr. as well, coming off of Suzuki Gun. Like, this is his chance at you know, I think launching something on his own outside of his faction. So even Dangerous Tekkers has broken up. So that's kind of sad. But so you're saying Narita wins this one?
I could certainly see this one going either way. I would like to see Narita win. I really hope this year we see an elevation of, several of these homegrown stars, and Ren Narita being one of them. Yeah.
I kind of want to see an elevation of a Zack Sabre Jr. into main event role too, but I don't know if the TV title is necessarily that.
You could go with Zack. I don't think it's I can see the argument to go with Zack too. Carl Anderson against Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight Championship. Carl Anderson is coming off a pretty universally panned match with Hikuleo, and I do not know why this has been drawn out as long as it has.
This is it, John. WWE working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. A New Japan guy might win a belt off of a WWE superstar. It's a huge deal. Will change their business.
I believe that they think that this is a huge deal. I don't know if this is adding anybody to watch this show that was not already watching it. I think they've greatly overestimated what this has added to the card, and drawing out this Never Openweight Championship drama of a title that I don't think there's that great of a affinity for to begin with. But
on paper, it's one of the least interesting matches on the entire card.
Yeah. Carl Anderson laid out Tama Tonga. I mean, this writes itself that Tama Tonga beats Carl Anderson with the gun stun and wins the belt. Great. I don't think this. I'll be frank. When we're talking about Shingo Takagi and Ishii and a Taichi who had a great year, an El Desperado who had a phenomenal year, like, I'm going to be very critical when you have a singles match. You better earn that spot on this show. So there are going to be high expectations for these matches because there's some killer talent that are not in these spots.
Agreed.
Keiji Muto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Shota Umino against Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. And yeah, promoted as Muto's final New Japan match and his third to final match ever.
Ooh,
you always remember the third to last way.
I suppose
anyway,
so.
I like that Umino's part of this. It's I would not have expected Naito and Tanahashi to be in, like, this is hardly like a throwaway match. Like, Muto's, last New Japan match is significant, but it is certainly a de-escalated role for Tanahashi and Naito, though I think that this will still be a very enjoyable match. And the sleeper in this, I could see being Bushi, who is a great talent that is constantly, I just don't think he ever is someone that people single out. Like, he's just a consistently great performer, and him and Umino, or even him and Tanahashi, I think could have some fun interactions here. And then whoever it is on the LIJ side, maybe Sonata or Bushi, eat the pin from Muto.
I'm looking forward to seeing Sonata with Keiji Muto. Sonata has history, of course, with dating back to All Japan and Wrestle One, even with Keiji Muto, and he constantly references him in his moveset. So I imagine, personally, it's probably a huge deal for everybody involved in this match to be able to have one of Muto's last matches, but especially for Sonata. So I'm curious to see what sort of spots that they all work out together. I really like the babyface team, the idea of 3 different generations all kind of like siding together. I'm kind of looking forward to this. There's Muto is limited, but I mean, in a multi-match setting, I think you can hide him perfectly well. Just have him come in for his big spots, and the specialness in the air, it will be very real. People will like we saw with the Nakamura match. These matches have potential to be incredibly emotional. So I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, and then maybe backstage during the post-match interviews, Tanahashi and Umino can have a talk with Muto and explain.
I'm hoping Muto
social
does
norms.
Not get anywhere near Mike. Yeah.
Taiji Ishimori, El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi, and Master Wato. So this is it's an interesting spot on the card. Like, it's going to be late, and I think that it technically should be a really, really great match. I kind of like the idea of like Desperado getting a big win on the big show. It just feels like Hiromu To me, I don't know. It just feels like he has been in place in this junior heavyweight division for so long. The other option is Master Wato, who throughout this whole build has been promoted as like the guy that's not on the level of these three. So you could certainly see him getting his big win on the Tokyo Dome show. I think there's a high likelihood of a title change here.
Yeah, I think so too. I know what you're saying about Hiromu. Like, he's the big star, and like Wrestle Kingdom, you tend to want to be the happy ending for like the main character. But man, it's just it feels like such a insignificant event. Like you're just going back to the status quo. And to be honest, I don't even know if like El Desperado winning changes things all that much either. It's not like it's his first time winning, but I understand what you mean. He needs a big win on a big stage or like in front of a cheering crowd at least. So I guess of all the choices, he'd probably be my preference too.
Will Ospreay against Kenny Omega is second from the top, and they're very much pushing this to the English audience as the main event of the show. How long do you think this one goes?
Ooh, okay. I'm guessing like a good 25.
Yeah, I'm thinking minimum 25. I'm thinking like 35. I think it's going to be a really long match. Yeah. It's for the United States Championship that Will Ospreay has done a tremendous job elevating. This and the Wonder of Stardom title to me are the top like number 2 belts in any promotion at this point. It's an interesting way that you book this. I think for most interest coming out of this show is Omega wins the belt and it ensures he's coming back. And will Ospreay go to AEW to try and get the belt back? Will Kenny come back when will Kenny come back? Because he has to now. I think like that's the hook. On the other hand, it's Will Ospreay really establishing himself as not being in Kenny's shadow anymore, and beating Omega would be kind of that stamp. And looking at the way that New Japan and All Japan have alternated like their booking, like you could certainly see like this is designed for Ospreay to get that big defining win that he is on Kenny Omega's level.
Totally, yeah. I certainly don't think this will be the only time these two. By the way, they have met each other like all the way back in PWG, so this is technically their second singles match together.
Yeah,
but
there's a few hundred people that got to see this.
A few more people are going to watch this one, yeah. But I certainly don't think this will be the last time we'll see them together. I think as soon as like Forbidden Door is when you might be able to expect the AEW side of the equation to happen. So knowing that, or expecting that they will face each other again, this win will ultimately just be setting up chapter 2, right? So therefore I could see Kenny winning this one, taking it to AEW, maybe holding it until he meets Ospreay again. But man, this US title is kind of cursed, isn't it? Like, like people who tend to hold it haven't had the best luck in dropping.
Omega doesn't need any more curses.
Yeah, but it's almost secondary. Like, we're there to see a dream match, aren't we?
Yeah. I think this is the match that is going to be moving the most amount of people to come back to New Japan. Like there is a lapsed New Japan audience out there, and I think this is the first year Wrestle Kingdom feels like Wrestle Kingdom since 2020.
Completely, absolutely. The card is fresh, and this is why I'm not so upset. Like not seeing a Tanahashi or a Naito in a multi-man match, or even not seeing Shingo or an Ishii on the card. Like I look up and down this card, we got like Kyrie on the show, Kenny Omega and Ospreay on the show. Like it's fresh, and that's what I've been missing so much from New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, yeah.
And then the main event, Jay White defends the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Kazuchika Okada.
I spoke too soon maybe about the freshness, but nonetheless, it's a long-term story.
This one to me is going to be like, I think this will be a sound wrestling match. I think it will be enjoyable.
They usually are.
They usually are. The question will be, number 1, following Ospreay Omega, and number 2 is like, I think this is going to be the heaviest presence of like an Inoki tribute. And I think this is all built to that, like what we have been building for all year during this anniversary is Okada with that belt in the Tokyo Dome, leading the Ichi Nissan Da with the whole crowd able to scream it out as, our return to crowds being vocal. I think that's what this is all built around. But before that, you're probably getting like close to a 40-minute match And there's going to be a lot of people that's not going to be their jam for a New Japan main event between these two, where it does feel this is very much on Jay to have a different type of match and present doubt that this storybook ending that everyone sees as the whole build up to the year, that you do have some twists and turns along the way.
Yeah, agreed.
And could be at the end of like a 5+ hour show.
That is almost guaranteed, John. Yeah. I know the match will be good. I've really gotten my fill of the Okada template 30+ minute match, and this is guaranteed to be that. I recognize the significance with all the Inoki stuff, especially for people in Japan. I'm just not that excited.
What if Scott Coker comes out at the end and takes part in the chant? Will that win you over?
That will change everything. Sure. I recognize the significance. And again, like, we should remember that New Japan Pro Wrestling is very much a product that still focuses on catering to the Japanese local audience, and not me. But God, like,
on that note, for this Inoki tribute, I hope that they mix in clips throughout the show. I think that'd be really cool. It serves a dual feature of, this is all stuff on New Japan World, but it builds to that climactic moment at the end. Like, this is the Inoki tribute show, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not terribly excited, but I mean, that said, listen, like, the setting, I might be overcome if they play those videos. Maybe I'll really get caught up in it, and that moment at the end might feel very, very nice. So, what has Okada been doing in his matches leading up to this? He's been using new finisher, I believe, like a.
Hey, he's been using like the Cobra Twist, and and it's been coming out in the robe all year long as well. Like, this is, it is essentially like he is the next Inoki, and that has been largely what the whole last 10 years has been of Ghetto's booking. And in this sense, I mean, I would imagine that there was a time that they were hoping that this would be a scene of like Inoki coming out and being in the ring with him at during the anniversary, and instead it's going to be in the memory of Antonio Inoki. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure it'll be very emotional. Let's see if they can execute what they want.
Yeah. And let's not forget as well that they've got to set up another card for January 21st very quickly. So between this show and New Year Dash, like, you have to set up the Yokohama Arena, which is the day before their New Beginning card in Nagoya, which, like, Dolphins Arena is a big arena. That's not when you just put a 6-man tag on top. Like, that is a huge card too that they have. So they have to set up a lot of big matches for those two shows coming out of the next couple of days as well. Yeah. So again, we will have a review on Wednesday at postwrestlingcafe.com. So look out for that in your feed, and we will be notifying you once the show goes up. And that's going to bring an end to a lengthy edition of Rewind to Raw. Welcome to 2023. I was excited to do a show with you, Wei.
Likewise, John, as always. Thank you so much for, grabbing the news stories, keeping the site as fresh as it's looking. Great year 2022 was, and I think 2023 will be great as well.
I'm off to do my reading, Way. Ticketmasters.
Ooh.
About the ticket industry.
Okay, fantastic.
It's quite the read.
What are you learning so far?
Ticketmaster, exceptionally greedy, and there's some detractors to Pearl Jam.
For what?
Pearl Jam tried to take on Ticketmaster.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And
I'll lend you the book after.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Cool. That's it for us. Any closing words, Way?
I'm off to figure out my sleep schedule for the next 48 hours.
Okay. I have questions about that too. That's it for us. Have a great night. We'll chat with you on Wednesday multiple times.